Success loves the silent. Respect follows the quiet. Power belongs to those who build without broadcasting. Let me tell you something that most people will never understand. The biggest mistake you can make in life is telling everyone your plans, your dreams, and your story before you've actually accomplished anything. Every time you open your mouth about what you are going to do, you are giving away the energy you need to actually do it. You are inviting opinions from people who have never done what you are trying to do. You are exposing your vulnerable dreams to individuals who will use that information against you when it benefits them. Your story is not public property. Your journey is not a spectator sport. The moment you become more private about your process and more public about your results, everything changes. You stop wasting energy on explanations and start investing it in execution. If you are ready to protect your dreams from people who don't deserve access to them and build something real while everyone else is busy talking, then keep watching, because what I am about to share will transform how you approach your goals forever. Number 1, not everyone deserves access to your journey. Let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Your story is valuable. Your journey is precious. And the biggest mistake you can make is thinking that everyone around you has earned the right to know what you are building, where you are going, or what you are trying to accomplish. I learned this the hard way. I used to be the kind of person who would share everything with everyone. I thought it was being open. I thought it was being honest. I thought it was being authentic. But what I didn't realize was that I was giving away my power, my focus, and my energy to people who had no intention of supporting me. They were just curious. Some were envious. Others were looking for reasons to tell me why it wouldn't work. And a few were simply waiting for me to fail so they could feel better about their own inaction. When you share your dreams with the wrong people, you invite doubt into your mind. You open the door to criticism that you are not ready to handle. You expose your tender hopes to people who don't have the vision to see what you see. And here is what happens. They project their own limitations onto you. They tell you it is too risky. They remind you of every person who tried and failed. They ask you questions designed to make you second-guess yourself. Not because they're bad people, but because they can't see beyond their own fears and limitations. Your journey is not a public exhibition. It is a private construction project. You don't invite the entire neighborhood to watch you build a house before the foundation is even laid. You work quietly. You focus intensely. You protect the process from interference and distraction. I've watched countless people lose their momentum simply because they talked too much too soon. They had an idea on Monday. They told 10 people by Wednesday, by Friday. They were confused, discouraged, and ready to quit. What happened in those few days? Nothing changed about the idea itself. Nothing changed about their ability to execute it. What changed was that they allowed other people's opinions to become louder than their own inner guidance. They traded their clarity for confusion. They swapped their confidence for doubt. And they gave away their creative energy in conversations that went nowhere. This is the hidden cost of oversharing. It is not just about people stealing your ideas, although that happens too. It is about the subtle erosion of your belief system. Every time you explain your vision to someone who doesn't get it, you have to defend it. Every time you defend it, you use mental and emotional energy that should be going into building it. Think about the greatest achievements in your life, the things you are most proud of. How many of those did you announce to the world before you started? Probably not many. There is something powerful about working in silence. There is something magnetic about keeping your cards close to your chest. When you are not constantly updating everyone on your progress, you stay focused on the work itself. You measure your success by your own standards, not by the reactions and validations of others. You build something real instead of building an image of something that might become real. The difference is enormous. One approach creates results. The other creates conversation. One builds your future. The other builds your reputation as someone who talks a lot but doesn't deliver much. I want you to understand that discretion is not the same as secrecy. This isn't about hiding or being dishonest. This is about being strategic with your energy and selective with your audience. You can be open and authentic without broadcasting every detail of your journey to every person you meet. You can be real without being reckless. You can share your heart without exposing your plans to people who have no stake in your success. The people who truly deserve access to your journey are the ones who have proven themselves through action, not just words. They're the ones who encourage you when you are down. They're the ones who celebrate your small wins as much as your big victories. They're the ones who ask thoughtful questions that help you think deeper, not critical questions that make you think smaller. Most people in your life are spectators. They watch from the sidelines. They comment on the game, but they're not on the field. They have opinions about your plays, but they're not taking any hits. And here is the truth. Spectators will never understand what it takes to be in the arena. They don't know the sacrifice. They don't feel the pressure. They don't experience the doubt and the fear and the uncertainty that comes with actually trying to build something meaningful. So why would you give them a vote on your decisions? Why would you let their comfort zone define your possibilities? You wouldn't. Not if you are serious about creating the life you want. Not if you are committed to becoming the person you are capable of becoming. I've seen people protect their journeys like they protect their families, with intentionality, with boundaries, with love, but also with wisdom. They understand that not every relationship requires full disclosure. They know that some people are meant to be in your life for a season, not for the whole journey. They recognize that your dreams are like seeds. You plant them in good soil. You water them consistently. You protect them from harsh weather and hungry birds. You don't dig them up every day to show people how they're growing. You trust the process. You do the work. You let time and effort do what talk and exposure never can. This is how real things get built. This is how lasting success gets created. Not through announcement, but through accomplishment. Not through explanation, but through demonstration. When you stop telling everyone your story, something shifts inside you. You become more grounded, more focused, more confident in your own judgment. You stop seeking external validation and start trusting your internal compass. You stop performing for an audience and start building for a purpose. The noise quiets down. The clarity goes up. Your energy stops leaking out in endless conversations and starts concentrating on meaningful action. You begin to move differently. You carry yourself differently. People notice, but they can't quite figure out what changed. What changed is that you stopped giving them access to the control room of your life. You stopped letting them peek behind the curtain. You started operating from a place of quiet power instead of loud hope. This doesn't mean you become cold or closed off. It means you become discerning. It means you develop the wisdom to know who gets the summary and who gets the summary, who gets the play-by-play and who gets the final score, who gets invited into your process and who only sees your results. This kind of discernment protects you. It preserves your energy. It keeps your vision clear and your motivation strong. It allows you to fail privately and learn quickly without the added weight of public scrutiny. It gives you the freedom to pivot without having to explain yourself to people who wouldn't understand anyway. It creates space for you to become who you need to become without the pressure of living up to who you said you would be. Your journey belongs to you, not to your family, not to your family, not to your followers, not to anyone but you. And the sooner you accept this responsibility, the sooner you'll start making decisions that align with your true desires instead of other people's expectations. You'll stop managing perceptions and start building reality. You'll stop worrying about what they think and start focusing on what you know. You'll stop seeking permission and start taking ownership. This shift changes everything. It transforms you from someone who talks about doing things into someone who actually does them. From someone who dreams out loud into someone who builds in silence. From someone who needs approval into someone who trusts their path. Not everyone deserves access to your journey because not everyone has the capacity to honor it. Not everyone can hold space for your vision without trying to shrink it to fit their understanding. Not everyone can celebrate your growth without feeling threatened by it. Not everyone can support your transformation without trying to pull you back to who you used to be. These are facts, not judgments. People can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. They can only believe in your possibilities to the extent that they believe in their own. And when you share your journey with people who are stuck, scared, or skeptical, you are asking them to give you something they don't have. You are asking them to see something they're not equipped to see. And when they can't, you feel discouraged. You feel misunderstood. You feel alone. But the problem wasn't your journey. The problem was your audience. Choose your audience carefully. Share your story wisely. Protect your energy fiercely. Build your dreams quietly and let your results do the talking. This is how you honor your journey. This is how you respect your process. This is how you create something real, something lasting, something worthy of the effort you're putting in. Not everyone deserves access to your journey, and that is perfectly fine. The right people will show up at the right time. The rest can read about it when you are done. Number 2, sharing too much invites unnecessary opinions and doubt. Here's what happens the moment you start talking about your plans. People feel entitled to give you their thoughts. They think because you opened your mouth, they have permission to fill your head with their fears, their doubts, and their limited perspectives. And the dangerous part is that you'll listen. You'll take their words seriously. You'll weigh their concerns as if they carry the same value as your own vision. But let me tell you something I learned after years of making this mistake. Most opinions you receive are not based on your potential. They're based on the other person's past, their failures, their regrets, their missed opportunities. When someone tells you that your idea won't work, they're often telling you that they don't have the courage to try something similar themselves. When they warn you about the risks, they're usually replaying the tape of their own choices and wishing they had taken more chances when they had the opportunity. The problem with collecting opinions is that they multiply like weeds in your mind. One person says you should wait. Another says you should start immediately. Someone else thinks you need more preparation. Another believes you are overthinking it. Before you know it, you are paralyzed. You can't move forward because you are trying to satisfy everyone's version of what your journey should look like. You've lost your own voice in the chorus of voices that were never supposed to be there in the first place. I've watched people with brilliant ideas abandon them completely because they made the mistake of sharing too early with too many people. The idea was perfect when it lived quietly in their mind. It had energy. It had possibility. It had life. But the moment they exposed it to the wrong crowd, it got picked apart, questioned, and ultimately killed by 1,000 small doubts that weren't even theirs to begin with. Doubt is contagious. It spreads faster than confidence. When you share your plans with someone who doesn't believe in you, their doubt enters your mental space. It sits there like an unwelcome guest. It whispers to you late at night when you're trying to sleep. It shows up when you're about to take action and makes you hesitate. It plants questions where there used to be clarity. Am I really ready for this? What if they're right? What if I am being foolish? These thoughts didn't come from you. They came from someone else's mouth and found a home in your head. And now you are carrying their baggage on a journey they're not even taking. You are letting their limitations define your possibilities. You are allowing their comfort zone to shrink yours. This is the hidden tax of oversharing. You think you are just having a conversation, but you are actually absorbing energy that doesn't serve you. I want you to think about how many dreams have died in coffee shop conversations. How many businesses never got started because someone shared the idea with a friend who said it has been done before. How many books never got written because the author told someone about it and heard that nobody reads anymore? How many relationships ended before they began because someone sought advice from people who were unhappy in their own relationships? The pattern is clear. When you invite opinions, you invite interference. When you ask for feedback from people who haven't accomplished what you are trying to accomplish, you get advice that reflects their level, not yours. You get caution from people who play it safe. You get skepticism from people who stop believing in possibilities. You get discouragement from people who gave up on their own dreams and can't stand to watch you chase yours. There is a specific type of psychological phenomenon that happens when you talk too much about your goals. Researchers have studied this. When you tell people about something you are planning to do, your brain experiences a premature sense of accomplishment. You get a little hit of satisfaction just from talking about it. The problem is that this satisfaction reduces your motivation to actually do the work. You've already received social recognition for the idea. You've already gotten the validation. You've already felt like you've achieved something. And now, the hard work of execution feels less urgent, less exciting, less necessary. This is why people who talk the most often do the least. They spend their energy in conversation instead of creation. They build their reputation as someone with big plans instead of building the actual results that make plans worthwhile. Let me be very direct with you. Most people are not qualified to give you advice on your journey. They haven't walked your path. They don't have your skills. They don't carry your vision. They don't possess your determination. So why would their opinion matter more than your intuition? Why would you trade what you know in your gut for what they think in their head? It makes no sense when you really examine it. Yet we do it all the time. We give away our power to people who have no idea what it takes to do what we're trying to do. We let people who are stuck tell us how to move forward. We let people who are scared teach us about courage. We let people who settled tell us about ambition. This is backwards. This is how you guarantee failure before you even start. Every opinion you collect becomes a voice in your decision-making process. Think about that. When you are trying to decide whether to quit your job and start your business, you are not just hearing your own thoughts anymore. You are hearing your mother's worry, your friend's skepticism, your colleague's warning, your neighbor's story about someone who tried and failed. All of these voices are now part of your internal dialogue. They're competing for attention. They're influencing your choices. They're shaping your confidence. And most of them are pulling you away from what you originally wanted to do. This is the real cost of sharing too much. It is not just annoying comments. It is the pollution of your mental clarity. It is the contamination of your decision-making process. It is the burden of carrying other people's fears while you are trying to build your own future. I learned to stop asking for opinions and start trusting my preparation. If I've done my research, if I've thought it through, if I've weighed the risks and rewards, then I don't need validation from people who haven't done any of that work. I need execution. I need focus. I need commitment. Opinions don't help with any of those things. In fact, they usually hurt. They create hesitation where there should be action. They generate confusion where there should be clarity. They introduce doubt where there should be faith in your own abilities. The best thing you can do for your goals is protect them from the opinions of people who don't share your vision. Share only with people who have proven they can support you without projecting their limitations onto you. And even then, be selective. Be intentional. Be careful. When you stop sharing too much, you'll notice a shift in your energy. You'll feel lighter, more decisive, more confident. You are no longer managing other people's concerns about your life. You are no longer defending your choices to people who will never fully understand them. You are no longer carrying the emotional weight of everyone's unsolicited input. You are free to move at your own pace, in your own direction, according to your own standards. This freedom is priceless. It is the difference between living your life and living a version of your life that has been edited by a committee of people who aren't even on your team. It is the difference between bold action and cautious half measures. It is the difference between creating something meaningful and creating something safe enough to avoid criticism. Unnecessary opinions create unnecessary doubt, and doubt is the enemy of action. When you doubt yourself, you hesitate. When you hesitate, you lose momentum. When you lose momentum, you start questioning everything. Is this the right time? Am I the right person? Is this the right approach? These questions are normal in small doses. But when they're amplified by other people's skepticism, they become paralyzing. You stop trusting yourself. You start looking for more opinions to cancel out the doubt created by the first round of opinions. And now you are stuck in a loop. More sharing leads to more opinions. More opinions lead to more doubt. More doubt leads to less action. Less action leads to fewer results. Fewer results lead to more doubt. And the cycle continues until you either give up completely or wake up and realize that the problem wasn't your idea. The problem was your audience. I've seen people transform their entire lives simply by learning to keep their mouths shut about their plans. They stop broadcasting every move. They stop seeking validation for every decision. They stop treating their dreams like public property that anyone could comment on. And something powerful happened. They started finishing things. They started achieving goals that used to feel impossible. They started surprising people with results instead of boring people with predictions. Their confidence grew because it was based on their own accomplishments, not on other people's approval. Their clarity improved because they weren't constantly filtering their thoughts through someone else's perspective. Their speed increased because they weren't stopping every 5 steps to explain themselves to people who were standing still. Sharing too much is a form of self-sabotage. You are sabotaging your focus by letting other people's thoughts crowd your mind. You are sabotaging your confidence by exposing your tender plans to harsh criticism. You are sabotaging your energy by spending it on explanation instead of execution. You are sabotaging your chances of success by inviting doubt into a process that requires unwavering belief. Stop doing this to yourself. Protect your vision like you protect anything valuable in your life. Put boundaries around it. Limit access to it. Guard it against people who don't have the wisdom or experience to appreciate what you are building. This isn't being secretive. This isn't being arrogant. This is being smart. This is being strategic. This is being strategic. This is being someone who values their dreams enough to keep them safe from people who could never understand them anyway. Number 3, protect your dreams from those who don't understand. Your dreams need protection, not from bad people necessarily, but from people who simply cannot see what you see. There is a massive difference between someone who wants to hurt you and someone who just doesn't have the capacity to understand your vision. Both can damage your progress. But the second group is far more dangerous because they often come disguised as concern. They care about you. They want the best for you, but their version of what is best is limited by their own experiences, their own fears, and their own understanding of what is possible. When you share your biggest dreams with people who think small, you are asking them to stretch beyond their current capacity. And when they can't stretch that far, they'll try to shrink your dream down to a size they can comprehend. This happens in families. It happens in workplaces. Good people with good intentions will tell you to be realistic, when what they really mean is be like them. Understanding requires experience or imagination. Most people have neither when it comes to your specific dream. They haven't done what you are trying to do. They haven't studied what you've studied. They haven't felt the pull that you feel toward this particular goal. And if they lack the imagination to envision themselves doing something similar, then they definitely can't envision you doing it successfully. This isn't a character flaw. This is just a reality of human perception. We can only recognize in others what we've either experienced ourselves or what we've opened our minds to believe is possible. When someone looks at your dream and says it is impossible, they're really saying it is impossible for them. They're projecting their own limitations onto your situation. They're measuring your potential with a ruler that was designed for their life, not yours. The tragedy is that most people don't realize they're doing this. They genuinely believe they're being helpful when they tell you to lower your expectations or choose a safer path. I've watched people give up on dreams that could have changed their entire family's future because they listened to someone who loved them but didn't understand them. A young woman wants to start a business, but her parents tell her to get a stable job because that is what worked for them. A man wants to write a book, but his friends laugh because none of them read. A teenager wants to pursue art, but the teachers push engineering because it pays better. In every single case, the advice giver is operating from their own framework, their own values, their own definition of success. And in every single case, the dream dies a little bit each time it is questioned by someone who was never going to understand it anyway. This is why protection is critical. Your dream is fragile in its early stages. It needs nurturing, not criticism. It needs belief, not analysis. It needs space to grow before it is strong enough to withstand the skepticism of people who don't get it. Let me tell you what I've observed over decades of working with people. The ones who achieve extraordinary things are almost always the ones who learned early to stop explaining themselves to people who weren't capable of understanding. They stopped seeking approval from people whose approval was based on conformity rather than potential. They stopped sharing their vision with people who had never pursued a vision of their own. Instead, they found a small circle of people who either understood because they were on a similar path or who had the wisdom to support without needing to fully comprehend. Everyone else got the polite smile and the vague answer. They learned that protecting their dream wasn't about being secretive or superior. It was about being smart enough to know that not every person in your life needs access to every part of your inner world. When you expose your dream to someone who doesn't understand, several things happen that you need to be aware of. First, they'll ask questions that are designed to poke holes rather than build bridges. They'll focus on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. They'll remind you of every failure story they've ever heard. They'll bring up statistics you didn't ask for. They'll mention people who tried and didn't make it. And all of this input, even when delivered with love, creates a weight on your shoulders that wasn't there before. Second, you'll start to feel the need to defend your dream. You'll find yourself explaining and justifying and trying to make them see what you see. This is exhausting. This drains the exact energy you need to actually pursue the dream. You are spending your fire on defense instead of offense. You are using your passion to convince others instead of to fuel your own actions. This is a losing game. The third thing that happens is more subtle, but equally damaging. You begin to internalize their doubt. Even if you don't agree with them consciously, their words plant seeds in your subconscious. You start noticing the obstacles more than the opportunities. You start feeling the fear more than the excitement. You start questioning your own judgment because someone you respect has questioned it. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start to pull back. You start to hedge. You start to create backup plans that undermine your main plan. You start to protect yourself from failure by not fully committing to success. All because you shared your dream with someone who couldn't hold it with the care it deserved. All because you expected understanding from someone who didn't have the framework to provide it. I am not telling you to cut people off. I am not suggesting you become isolated or arrogant. What I am saying is that you need to be intentional about who gets to speak into your dreams. There are people in your life who have earned that right through their own achievements, through their consistent support, through their ability to see beyond the surface. These are the people you consult. These are the people whose feedback actually matters because it comes from a place of genuine insight rather than fear or ignorance. Everyone else can know that you are working on something without knowing exactly what it is or how you plan to achieve it. They can see your progress without being part of your process. They can celebrate your wins without having been involved in your strategy. This boundary is healthy. This boundary is necessary. This boundary is what separates people who achieve their dreams from people who abandon them. Think about the dreams you've already given up on. Go back in your memory. How many of those dreams died because you genuinely lost interest versus how many died because someone convinced you they weren't worth pursuing? How many goals did you abandon because you realized they weren't right for you versus how many did you drop because someone made you feel foolish for having them? I am willing to bet that most of the dreams you've let go weren't killed by your own conviction. They were killed by other people's opinions, by discouragement disguised as practicality, by skepticism dressed up as concern, by limitations presented as wisdom. And the people who killed those dreams probably have no idea they did it. They probably don't even remember the conversation. But you remember, because somewhere inside you there is still a part that wonders what could have been if you had just protected that dream a little better. Protection means being selective with information. It means knowing the difference between sharing for support and sharing for validation. When you need support, you go to people who have the emotional capacity and the relevant experience to actually help you. When you are seeking validation, you are usually just looking for someone to tell you you are on the right track. But here is the problem. Validation from the wrong people is worthless. It doesn't strengthen your resolve. It doesn't clarify your path. It just makes you feel good for a moment before reality sets back in. Real support looks different. Real support comes from people who ask tough questions that make you think harder, not doubt deeper. Real support comes from people who challenge you to be better, not smaller. Real support comes from people who believe in you even when they don't fully understand what you are doing. I want you to start viewing your dreams as valuable property. You wouldn't leave your wallet on the table in a crowded restaurant and walk away. You wouldn't hand your car keys to a stranger. You wouldn't give your bank account information to just anyone. Why? Because these things have value, and giving them to the wrong person could result in loss. Your dreams are more valuable than any of those things. Your dreams represent your future, your potential, your purpose, your contribution to the world. And yet, most people treat their dreams with less care than they treat their possessions. They expose them to anyone who is curious. They subject them to the judgment of people who have no business weighing in. This has to stop if you are serious about achieving something meaningful. The people who don't understand your dream will often be the loudest voices in your life. They'll have the most to say. They'll feel the most entitled to their opinion. They'll be the most persistent in trying to redirect you. This is because your dream makes them uncomfortable. It highlights their own inaction. It challenges their own choices. It forces them to confront the fact that they settled when they could have soared. Your ambition is a mirror that reflects their complacency, and most people don't like what they see in that mirror. Rather than deal with their own discomfort, they'll try to dim your light. They'll try to bring you back down to their level, where everyone is safe and predictable and small. Don't let them. Don't adjust your dreams to match their comfort zone. Don't shrink your vision to fit their comprehension. Don't apologize for wanting more than what they wanted. Protecting your dreams also means protecting your energy and your time. Every conversation where you are defending your choices is time you are not spending building your future. Every argument about whether your dream is realistic is energy you are not investing in making it real. Every moment you spend trying to help someone understand why this matters to you is a moment stolen from actually doing the work that matters. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your ambitions. You don't need permission to pursue what calls to you. You don't require consensus before you take action. What you need is focus. What you need is determination. What you need is the courage to move forward, even when the people around you think you should stay still. Number 4, some people will use your story against you. This is the hardest truth you'll ever have to accept about human nature. There are people in your life right now who are collecting information about you, not because they care, not because they want to help, but because they're waiting for the right moment to use what you've told them as ammunition. I am not talking about enemies. I am not talking about strangers. I am talking about people you trust. People you consider friends. People you work with. People you grew up with. Even people in your own family. These are individuals who smile at your face while they're storing your vulnerabilities in their memory for future use. They ask you questions that seem innocent. They listen with what appears to be genuine interest. And you open up because you believe they're on your side. But the moment you stumble, the moment you fail, the moment there is conflict or competition, everything you shared becomes a weapon they point directly at you. I've seen this happen more times than I can count. Someone shares their struggle with debt, and years later during an argument, that same information gets thrown back at them as proof they're irresponsible. A person opens up about their past mistakes, and when they're up for a promotion, suddenly those mistakes are being whispered about in meetings they're not invited to. Someone confides their insecurities to a friend, and that friend uses those exact insecurities to manipulate them when it benefits their agenda. This isn't negativity. This is pattern recognition based on observable human behavior. Some people are collectors. They collect your secrets, your fears, your failures, and your weaknesses, and they store them like insurance policies. They can cash in when they need leverage over you. The painful part is that you gave them this power voluntarily. You handed over the keys to your vulnerability because you thought transparency was the same as trust. Here is what you need to understand about people who weaponize your story. They're usually operating from a place of deep insecurity themselves. When you are doing well, when you are growing, when you are succeeding, it triggers something in them. It reminds them of their own stagnation. It highlights their own failures. It makes them feel inadequate. And rather than deal with those feelings in a healthy way, they look for ways to bring you down to their level. Your story gives them the tools to do exactly that. If they know you struggled with addiction, they'll question your judgment. If they know you came from poverty, they'll suggest you don't belong in certain spaces. If they know you've been hurt before, they'll imply you are too damaged to handle new opportunities. Every piece of your history becomes evidence they use to build a case against your future. The workplace is especially dangerous territory for oversharing. You think you are building relationships. You think you are being authentic. You think you are creating bonds with your colleagues. But in many environments, you are actually creating liabilities. That coworker you told about your family problems will mention it to the boss when you need flexibility. That manager you confided in about your career doubts will remember it when deciding who gets the promotion. That team member you shared your struggles with will bring it up when they need to deflect blame onto someone else. Corporate environments reward perception management, not radical honesty. The people who rise to the top are often the ones who shared just enough to seem human, but kept enough private to remain untouchable. They understood that every personal detail is potential leverage in someone else's hands. Let me give you a framework for understanding this dynamic. There are 3 types of people when it comes to your story. The first type are supporters. These are rare. These are people who hear your story and genuinely want you to succeed. They use what you share to understand you better, to help you more effectively, to celebrate your progress more meaningfully. The second type are spectators. These are the majority. They listen to your story because it is entertaining or because social norms require them to show interest. They don't really care either way. They won't help you, but they probably won't hurt you either. The third type are opportunists. These are the dangerous ones. They listen to your story specifically to find weaknesses. They probe for sensitive areas. They remember details that could be useful later, and they absolutely will use what you tell them against you when it serves their interests. The problem is that all 3 types often look exactly the same in the moment. They all nod. They all seem engaged. They all ask follow-up questions. You can't always tell who is who until it is too late. I learned this lesson the expensive way. Early in my career, I shared my background with people I thought were friends. The failures, the times I almost gave up. I thought I was inspiring people. I thought I was being relatable. What I didn't realize was that I was creating a highlight reel of my vulnerabilities that certain people would replay whenever they needed to undermine me. When I proposed a new idea, they'd reference my past failures. When I advocated for a different approach, they'd question whether someone with my background could really understand the situation. When I competed for opportunities, they'd subtly remind decision makers about the struggles I had openly discussed. None of it was explicit enough to call out. None of it was direct enough to confront. But it was constant enough to create doubt. And that doubt cost me opportunities, relationships, and peace of mind. The people who use your story against you are masters of subtle warfare. They don't attack you openly. They don't make direct accusations. Instead, they plant seeds. They ask leading questions in group settings. Remember when you mentioned you struggled with that? Do you think that might be affecting your judgment now? They bring up your past in contexts where it has no relevance except to diminish you. I know this is a big project, and given what you've been through, are you sure you can handle it? They frame their attacks as concern. They disguise their manipulation as care. And if you call them out, they act surprised. I was just trying to help. I am worried about you. I didn't mean anything by it. This plausible deniability is what makes them so effective and so dangerous. They hurt you while maintaining the appearance of being on your side. Social media has amplified this problem exponentially. People post their entire lives online, their struggles, their victories, their opinions, their locations, their relationships, their conflicts. And all of that information is permanently accessible to anyone who wants to use it. Future employers scroll through years of posts, looking for red flags. Competitors screenshot your moments of doubt and share them when you are trying to project confidence. People you had one disagreement with dig through your history to find something contradictory you said years ago. Your own words become evidence in trials you didn't know you were on. Every post is a potential liability. Every share is a potential weapon. Every moment of vulnerability is permanently recorded for anyone to exploit at any time. The internet never forgets, and people who want to hurt you have infinite patience when it comes to waiting for the perfect moment to use your own content against you. Family dynamics add another layer of complexity to this issue. You expect your family to be your safe space. You expect them to protect your stories, not weaponize them. But family members can be the worst offenders because they have the longest memory and the most detailed information. They know your childhood traumas. They witnessed your teenage mistakes. They remember every failure, every embarrassment, every moment of weakness. And some of them will absolutely use that knowledge to control you, to win arguments, to maintain power dynamics, or simply to hurt you when they're hurting. The cousin who brings up your past at family gatherings. The sibling who reminds your parents of your mistakes whenever you are doing well. The relative who tells your story to others without your permission, framing you in whatever light serves their narrative. These betrayals cut the deepest because they come from people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. The hardest part about this reality is that it makes you want to close off completely. It makes you want to trust no one. It makes you want to build walls so high that nobody can ever get close enough to hurt you. But that is not the answer either. Complete isolation isn't strength. It is just a different kind of weakness. The real skill is learning discernment, learning to read people accurately, learning to share appropriately based on who someone has proven themselves to be over time, not who you hope they are. Learning to give people access to your story in proportion to how they've handled previous information. Learning to test trust in small doses before you hand over the big stuff. This is wisdom. This is maturity. This is how you protect yourself without becoming bitter or paranoid. You need to start viewing your story as classified information. Not everyone has clearance. Not everyone needs to know. And definitely not everyone deserves to know. The details of your struggles, your trauma, your fears, your failures, and your dreams are yours to guard. Share them only with people who have demonstrated, through consistent action, that they're worthy of that trust. And even then, share strategically. Share what serves a purpose, share what builds genuine connection. But keep the rest locked away where it can't be turned into ammunition. This isn't being fake. This isn't being closed off. This is being smart about who gets access to the most vulnerable parts of who you are and where you've been. Some people have earned that access, most people have not. And some people are actively looking for ways to use whatever you give them to tear you down later. Watch how people handle other people's information. That is your best indicator of how they'll handle yours. If someone gossips to you about others, they're gossiping about you to others. If someone uses other people's struggles as punchlines, they'll do the same with yours. If someone shares secrets they were told in confidence, they'll share yours too. Pay attention to these patterns. Believe what you see, not what people say. Someone can claim to be trustworthy all day long, but their behavior with other people's stories will tell you everything you need to know about what they'll do with yours. Number 5, silence creates mystery and keeps your power intact. There is something magnetic about a person who doesn't reveal everything. Someone who moves through life with purpose, but doesn't broadcast every detail of their journey. Someone who achieves without announcement, who grows without explanation, who transforms without documentation. These people carry a certain energy that draws others in. They command respect without demanding it. They hold attention without begging for it. And the secret to their presence is simple. They understand that silence is not emptiness. Silence is power concentrated. When you stop talking about what you are doing and just do it, you create a gap between perception and reality that works entirely in your favor. People don't know what to expect from you. They can't predict your next move. They can't put you in a box because you haven't given them enough information to build one. This uncertainty keeps you in control of your own narrative instead of letting others write it for you. Mystery is valuable in a world where everyone shares everything. We live in a time where people document their breakfast, their workouts, their thoughts, their moods, their locations, and their plans in real time. There is no space left for imagination. There is no room left for wonder. Everything is exposed, explained, and exhausted before it even happens. And in this environment of constant disclosure, the person who holds back stands out, not because they're hiding, not because they're being dishonest, but because they've recognized that not everything needs to be shared to be real. They've understood that some things become more powerful when they're kept private. They've learned that the anticipation of what might be is often more compelling than the explanation of what is. When you create mystery around your life, you force people to pay attention in a different way. They watch your actions instead of listening to your words. They respect your results instead of judging your process. Power leaks out through your mouth. Every time you explain yourself, you are giving away a piece of your authority. Every time you justify your decisions, you are inviting others to question them. Every time you share your plans before they're complete, you are diluting the impact of your eventual success. Think about how much energy you waste in conversation, talking about what you are going to do, defending why you are doing it, explaining how you are going to make it happen, responding to people's doubts and questions and unsolicited advice. All of that talking is energy that could be going into the actual work. All of those words are power that could be concentrated into action. When you choose silence instead, you keep that power inside where it can fuel your progress. You stop bleeding energy into conversations that don't move you forward. You start building momentum instead of building explanations. I've noticed a pattern among highly successful people across different fields. They share their victories after they've been secured, not while they're being pursued. They announce deals after they're signed. They reveal projects after they're completed. They talk about changes after they've been implemented. This isn't about being secretive. for the sake of drama. This is about protecting the integrity of their work from external interference. When you announce something too early, you open it up to sabotage, both intentional and unintentional. People insert their opinions. They share their concerns. They introduce variables you hadn't considered. They create pressure you didn't need. And all of this noise can derail something that would have succeeded if you had just kept quiet and kept working. Silence until success is a strategy that removes unnecessary obstacles from your path. The mystery you create through silence also changes how people perceive your value. When someone talks about everything they're doing, they become common, predictable, easy to understand, and therefore easy to dismiss. But when someone moves in silence, when their results speak before their mouth does, they become intriguing. People want to know more. People want to understand how they did it. People assign greater value to their methods and their insights because those things weren't freely given to everyone. This isn't manipulation. This is human psychology. We value what is rare. We respect what is earned, and information that is withheld until the right moment carries more weight than information that is constantly broadcasted. Your silence makes your eventual words more impactful. Your privacy makes your public moments more meaningful. Your discretion makes your disclosures more valuable. Let me be clear about what silence is not. Silence is not passivity. It is not weakness. It is not fear. Real silence is active. It is a choice. It is a discipline. It is the daily practice of keeping your mouth closed even when you are excited, even when you want validation, even when you are tempted to prove something to someone. This kind of silence requires strength because our natural impulse is to share. We want people to know what we're up to. We want recognition for our efforts. We want approval for our choices. But when you override that impulse and choose silence instead, you are exercising a muscle that most people never develop. You are building the capacity to be self-contained, to validate yourself, to find satisfaction in the work itself, rather than in other people's reactions to the work. This is a rare quality, and it shows up in how you carry yourself. People can feel the difference between someone who needs to talk and someone who chooses not to. The person who needs to talk is seeking something from the conversation: validation, attention, approval, relief. They're using words to fill a void or to manage their anxiety about whether they're on the right track. The person who chooses silence doesn't have that need. They're grounded in their own certainty. They're comfortable with the unknown. They're confident enough in their direction that they don't require constant external confirmation. This confidence is attractive. It draws opportunities. It earns respect. It creates the kind of presence that opens doors without you having to knock. When you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you start attracting people who understand you without explanation. These are the right people. These are the ones worth having in your circle. Silence also protects you from the pressure of living up to public declarations. When you announce your goals to the world, you create an audience. And once you have an audience, you have expectations to manage. You feel obligated to update people. You feel pressure to show progress. You feel embarrassed if things don't go according to plan. All of this external pressure can actually prevent you from achieving what you set out to do because you are more focused on managing perceptions than on doing the actual work. When you work in silence, you remove that pressure. You give yourself permission to fail privately, to adjust your approach without having to explain why, to change direction without disappointing anyone, to experiment without judgment. This freedom is essential for innovation, for growth, for any kind of meaningful achievement. The people who do the most impressive work are often the ones who give themselves the space to struggle and iterate away from public view. There is a specific type of power that comes from being underestimated. When people don't know what you are capable of because you haven't told them, they make assumptions. Usually those assumptions are lower than your actual ability. They think you are ordinary. They think you are predictable. They think they have you figured out. And then you produce results that shatter those assumptions. You emerge with accomplishments that nobody saw coming. You reveal capabilities that you never advertised. This element of surprise gives you a massive advantage in any competitive situation. While others were busy underestimating you, you were busy outworking them. While they were focused on louder, more visible competitors, you were quietly building something they never anticipated. By the time they realize what you've done, it is too late for them to catch up. This is strategic silence. This is intentional mystery. This is power management at its finest. I want you to think about the people you respect most, the ones whose opinion actually matters to you, the ones you look up to and admire. How much do they talk about what they're doing? Probably not as much as the people you don't respect. The loudest people in any room are rarely the most accomplished. The ones who talk the most about their plans are rarely the ones who execute them most effectively. There is an inverse relationship between talking and doing that plays out over and over again. The more you talk, the less you do. The less you talk, the more you accomplish. It is not absolute, but it is a pattern worth paying attention to. When you study successful people, you'll find that most of them have learned the value of selective sharing. They've learned when to speak and when to stay silent. They've learned that not every audience deserves every piece of information. They've learned that mystery serves them better than transparency in most situations. Keeping your power intact means keeping your options open. When you tell everyone your plans, you lock yourself into those plans. You create public commitment that makes it harder to pivot when you need to. You build expectations that constrain your flexibility. But when you stay silent, you remain fluid. You can test different approaches. You can abandon strategies that aren't working. You can pursue opportunities that weren't part of the original plan. You can evolve without having to announce every evolution. This adaptability is crucial in a world that changes as fast as ours does. The people who succeed are the ones who can adjust quickly. And the ones who can adjust quickly are usually the ones who aren't burdened by having to explain every adjustment to an audience that doesn't need to know. Silence is also a filter. It filters out the people who are only interested in your story, not in your success. When you are not constantly sharing updates, the people who stick around are the ones who care about you, not just about being entertained by your journey. They're the ones who check in because they genuinely want to know how you are doing, not because they want gossip or content. They're the ones who support you based on who you are, not based on what you are achieving or attempting to achieve. This filtering process naturally elevates the quality of your relationships. You end up surrounded by substance instead of spectators, by contributors instead of consumers, by people who add value instead of people who just take it. The mystery you create through silence also makes your presence more impactful when you do choose to speak. If you talk all the time, your words lose value. People stop listening because they know you'll just keep talking anyway. But if you are selective with your words, if you speak only when you have something meaningful to say, people lean in. They remember what you said because it is rare. This is how you build authority, not by talking more, but by talking better. Not by explaining everything, but by explaining what matters. Not by being the loudest voice, but by being the most valuable one. Your silence sets up your words to land with maximum impact when you finally choose to use them. Number 6, let your results speak louder than your words. Words are cheap. Anyone can say they're going to do something. Anyone can claim they're working hard. Anyone can describe their vision in elaborate detail. But results are expensive. Results require time, effort, sacrifice, consistency, and the ability to push through when everything inside you wants to quit. This is why results command respect in a way that words never will. When you show up with actual accomplishments, you don't need to convince anyone of anything. You don't need to defend your approach. You don't need to justify your methods. The outcome speaks for itself. People can argue with your words all day long, but they can't argue with tangible results. They can question your process, but they can't deny your product. They can doubt your strategy, but they can't dispute your success. This is the difference between talking about change and being the change, between discussing potential and demonstrating capability, between promising value and delivering it. I've watched people spend years talking about what they're going to do while others spent those same years quietly doing it. The talkers are still explaining their plans. The doers are already enjoying the fruits of their labor. The talkers have supporters who believe in their potential. The doers have proof that eliminates the need for belief. The talkers are trying to convince people they're serious. The doers have already shown their seriousness through action. And here is what is fascinating about this dynamic. The doers didn't need more talent. They didn't need more resources. They didn't need better circumstances. They just needed to shift their energy from explanation to execution. They needed to understand that the world rewards production, not promises. That people remember what you delivered, not what you described. That your legacy is built on accomplishments, not announcements. Results are the ultimate form of communication. When you lose weight, you don't need to tell people you've been working out. They can see it. When you build a successful business, you don't need to explain your work ethic. The business itself is the explanation. When you write a book, you don't need to talk about being a writer. The book proves it. When you develop a skill to mastery level, you don't need to claim expertise. Your performance demonstrates it. This is what it means to let results speak. You remove the need for verbal validation by providing visual, tangible, undeniable evidence of your commitment and your capability. People can feel the difference between someone who talks a good game and someone who plays one. The energy is completely different. The presence is completely different. The respect they command is completely different. One of the most liberating realizations you can have is that you don't owe anyone a running commentary on your progress. You don't need to update people on every milestone. You don't need to document every step of your journey. What you need to do is keep your head down and do the work until the work speaks so loudly that people can't help but notice. This approach saves you enormous amounts of energy. Think about how much time people waste crafting the perfect social media post about their goals. Choosing the right words, finding the right image, responding to comments, managing reactions, all of that time could be spent actually working toward the goal. All of that energy could be invested in creating results, instead of creating content about potential results. When you redirect that energy into production, your rate of progress increases dramatically. Let me tell you what happens when you focus on results instead of recognition. First, you develop a different relationship with failure. When you are constantly talking about what you are doing, every failure feels public. Every setback feels like it needs to be explained. Every mistake feels like it damages your credibility. But when you are working in private, failure becomes feedback. It becomes information. It becomes part of the process, instead of part of your public identity. You can fail 10 times, learn from each failure, and show up with success without anyone knowing about the 9 attempts that didn't work. This freedom to fail privately is essential for innovation and growth. The people who achieve the most impressive results are usually the ones who failed the most times. But they failed quietly, they learned quickly, and they only shared the final version that worked. Second, you build genuine confidence. There is a huge difference between the confidence that comes from people liking your posts about your goals and the confidence that comes from actually achieving those goals. One is external and fragile. The other is internal and unshakable. When your confidence is built on results, nobody can take it away from you. Nobody can argue with it. Nobody can diminish it. You know what you've done. You know what you are capable of. You know what you've overcome to get where you are. That knowledge creates a foundation that doesn't crumble. When people criticize you or doubt you, you can handle negative feedback because your confidence isn't dependent on constant positive reinforcement. You can face challenges because you've already proven to yourself that you can produce results under pressure. Third, you attract better opportunities. People who make decisions about important opportunities are not impressed by talk. They're looking for track records. They're looking for evidence of execution. They're looking for people who have actually done things, not people who claim they can do things. When you have results to point to, you don't need to sell yourself as hard. You don't need to convince anyone to take a chance on you. Your past performance predicts your future performance in a way that words never can. Employers want to see what you've built. Investors want to see what you've grown. Partners want to see what you've accomplished. Clients want to see what you've delivered for others. None of them care about your intentions or your plans. They care about your ability to execute and produce outcomes. Results are your resume. Everything else is just filler. The marketplace doesn't reward effort. It rewards results. You can work incredibly hard on something, and if it doesn't produce the desired outcome, the market doesn't care about your effort. This seems harsh, but it is actually fair. Because effort without effectiveness is just activity. It is motion without progress. It is being busy without being productive. When you shift your focus from effort to results, you start asking better questions. Not just am I working hard? Not just am I putting in time, but am I getting the outcomes I need? Not just am I busy, but am I effective? These questions lead to better strategies, better priorities, and ultimately better results. And better results lead to better opportunities, better income, better influence, and better quality of life. I've learned that people respect results they can verify more than potential. They have to imagine. When you tell someone you are going to build $1 million business, they have to take your word for it. They have to believe in your vision. They have to trust your assessment of your own capabilities. That is a lot to ask from people, especially people who don't know you well. But when you show them a business that is already generating revenue, already serving customers, already solving problems, they don't need to imagine anything. They can see it. They can verify it. They can interact with it. The result removes all doubt and replaces it with respect. This is why successful people often seem to have an easier time getting support for new ventures. It is not because they're better at pitching ideas. It is because they have a history of turning ideas into reality. Their past results make their future promises credible. Results also protect you from critics. When you are all talk and no action, critics have unlimited ammunition. They can question your ability. They can doubt your commitment. They can point out all the reasons why you'll fail. And you have nothing to show them that proves otherwise. But when you have results, criticism loses its power. Someone can say you are not qualified, and you can point to what you've already accomplished. Someone can say your approach won't work, and you can show them that it already has. Someone can doubt your expertise, and you can demonstrate it through your track record. Results turn critics into spectators. They might not like you. They might not agree with your methods, but they can't deny what you've achieved. And that denial is what gives criticism its sting. When that is removed, criticism becomes background noise. Let me give you a practical framework for shifting from words to results. Start by cutting your talking in half. Whatever you are currently sharing about your goals, share half of that. Use the energy you would have spent talking to take one concrete action toward your goal instead. It doesn't have to be a big action. It just has to be real progress. Do this consistently, and you'll notice that your results start to accumulate while your need to talk about them decreases. You'll start to feel the satisfaction that comes from actual progress, rather than the hollow validation that comes from people liking your posts about intended progress. As your results grow, your confidence will grow with them. And as your confidence grows, your need for external validation will shrink. This creates a positive cycle where you are constantly building instead of constantly broadcasting. Another shift you need to make is in how you measure success. Stop measuring success by how many people know what you are doing. Start measuring it by what you've actually accomplished. Stop counting likes and comments. Start counting completed projects, acquired skills, solved problems, and achieved milestones. Stop tracking how many people believe in your potential. Start tracking how much of that potential you've converted into reality. This change in measurement changes your behavior. You start optimizing for outcomes instead of attention. You start investing in substance instead of image. You start building things that last instead of moments that fade. And over time, this approach separates you from the majority of people who are still stuck in the cycle of talking without doing. The beautiful thing about letting results speak is that it's a universal language. Results don't require translation. They don't require context. They don't require explanation. A successful business is a successful business, regardless of how you built it. A transformed body is a transformed body, regardless of which program you followed. A published book is a published book, regardless of your writing process. A happy relationship is a happy relationship, regardless of how you met. Results transcend the details of how they were achieved. They stand on their own merit. And when you have results, you command attention and respect in spaces where your words alone would never have been enough to get you through the door. I want to challenge you to go silent on your goals for the next 6 months. Don't post about them. Don't talk about them. Unless necessary. Don't seek validation or feedback. Just work. Just execute. Just produce. And at the end of those 6 months, look at what you've accomplished compared to the previous 6 months when you were talking about your goals. I guarantee you'll have achieved more. You'll have failed more too, but you'll have learned more from those failures because they were private lessons instead of public embarrassments. You'll have built something real instead of building an audience for something theoretical. And you'll understand experientially what I am trying to tell you in words. That results are the only currency that matters in the long run. That doing will always beat talking. That showing will always beat telling. That accomplishment will always beat announcement. Number 7, only share with people who truly support you. True support is rare. Most people will say they support you, but their actions tell a different story. They'll smile when you share your dreams and then subtly discourage you in the same conversation. They'll say they're happy for your success and then bring up reasons why it might not last. They'll claim they want the best for you and then introduce doubt disguised as concern. Real support is not about words. Real support is about consistent action over time. It is about showing up when things are difficult. It is about celebrating your wins without jealousy. It is about asking how they can help instead of why you think it'll work. It is about believing in you even when they don't fully understand what you are doing. And if you look closely at your life right now, you'll realize that very few people meet this standard. Most of the people you are sharing your story with are not truly supporting you. They're just present. They're just listening. They're just occupying space in your life without adding real value to your journey. The problem is that we confuse familiarity with support. We think that because someone has been in our life for a long time, they must be supporting us. But longevity doesn't equal loyalty. Time doesn't equal trust. History doesn't equal helpfulness. You can know someone for 20 years and they can still be one of the biggest obstacles to your growth. They can still be one of the voices that fills your head with doubt. They can still be one of the reasons you second guess yourself. True support is not determined by how long someone has known you. It is determined by how they respond when you are trying to become more than you currently are. Do they encourage that growth, or do they resist it? Do they celebrate your evolution, or do they try to keep you the same? Do they make space for your transformation, or do they guilt you for changing? These questions reveal who your real supporters are. I want you to pay attention to how people react when you share good news. Real supporters are genuinely happy. Their joy for you is immediate and authentic. They ask questions because they're interested, not because they're looking for holes in your story. They want details because they're excited, not because they're skeptical. They see your success as inspiring, not threatening. But fake supporters have a different reaction. There is a delay, a hesitation, a forced smile. They say congratulations, but their energy says something else. They follow up your good news with a cautionary tale. They remind you to stay humble or not get ahead of yourself. They bring up someone who had similar success and then lost it all. They can't just let you have the moment. They have to temper it with their own discomfort about your progress. This reaction tells you everything you need to know about whether they truly support you or whether they're just performing the role of supporter. Real supporters make you feel energized after you talk to them. You leave the conversation feeling more confident, more clear, more motivated to keep going. They don't drain you with their concerns. They don't burden you with their fears. They don't project their limitations onto your possibilities. Instead, they add fuel to your fire. They remind you of your strengths when you are focusing on your weaknesses. They point out how far you've come when you are frustrated about how far you still have to go. They see potential in you that you sometimes can't see in yourself. This is what real support feels like. It lifts you up instead of weighing you down. It expands your thinking instead of shrinking it. It makes you want to work harder because someone you respect believes you can achieve what you are reaching for. If most of your conversations leave you feeling drained, doubtful, or discouraged, you are sharing with the wrong people. Here's a test I use to identify real supporters. I ask myself 3 questions about each person in my inner circle. First, do they celebrate my wins without making it about themselves? Second, do they offer help without me having to ask? Third, do they maintain their support even when I am struggling or failing? If the answer to all 3 questions is yes, that person has earned access to my story. If the answer to any of these questions is no, I keep them at a distance. I don't cut them off completely unless they're actively harmful. I just stop sharing the important stuff. They can know a surface level information. They can know I am working on something, but they don't get the details. They don't get the vulnerabilities. They don't get the dreams that are still forming. Those things are reserved for people who have proven through consistent action that they're worthy of that level of access. Many people struggle with this concept because they feel guilty about being selective. They think that being open with everyone is being authentic. They think that limiting who they share with is being fake or stuck up. But this is backwards thinking. Being selective with your story is not about being fake. It is about being wise. It is about recognizing that your energy is limited and your dreams are valuable. It is about understanding that not everyone in your life is equipped to handle the weight of what you are carrying. It is about protecting your mental and emotional space from people who would pollute it with negativity or doubt. This isn't cruel. This isn't cold. This is self-preservation. This is how you maintain the clarity and confidence you need to actually achieve what you are working toward. Real supporters are invested in your growth because they're growing themselves. They understand the journey because they're on one too. They don't feel threatened by your success because they're building their own. They don't need to diminish you to feel better about themselves because their self-worth isn't dependent on comparison. These are the people who belong in your inner circle. These are the people who deserve to know what you are really working on, what you are really struggling with, what you are really dreaming about. Everyone else can stay in the outer circles where the conversation is pleasant but surface level, where you are friendly but not vulnerable, where you are present but protected. This structure is healthy. This structure is necessary. This structure is how you maintain your sanity while pursuing ambitious goals in a world full of people who will never understand what you are trying to accomplish. I've noticed that true supporters ask different questions than everyone else. They don't ask if you are sure about your decision. They ask how they can help you execute it. They don't ask what your backup plan is. They ask what your next step is. They don't ask if you've considered all the risks. They ask if you've identified all the resources you need. The questions real supporters ask are forward-looking. They assume you are going to succeed, and they're trying to help you get there faster. The questions from fake supporters are backward-looking. They assume you are going to fail, and they're trying to get you to reconsider before you embarrass yourself. Listen to the questions people ask. They reveal whether someone is in your corner or whether they're on the sidelines, hoping you stay small enough to make them comfortable. Another characteristic of real supporters is that they're consistent. They don't just support you when it is convenient or when you are winning. They support you when things are messy, when you are confused, when you are failing. They show up during the hard times with the same energy they bring during the good times. This consistency is how you know their support is genuine. Fair weather friends are everywhere. They love being associated with you when you are on top. But the moment you stumble, they disappear. They don't return your calls. They're suddenly too busy to meet up. They distance themselves from your struggle because they don't want to be associated with failure. Real supporters do the opposite. They lean in during your lowest moments. They check on you more often when you are going through challenges. They offer practical help instead of empty platitudes. They stand with you in the valleys, not just on the mountaintops. Sharing your story with real supporters creates a positive feedback loop. You share something meaningful. They respond with genuine encouragement and useful insight. You feel energized and clear. You take action based on that clarity. You make progress. You share that progress with them. They celebrate it authentically. You feel motivated to keep going. The cycle continues and you both grow from the exchange. But sharing with fake supporters creates a negative feedback loop. You share something meaningful. They respond with doubt disguised as concern. You feel deflated and confused. You second-guess yourself. You hesitate to take action. You make less progress. You feel like maybe they were right to be concerned. You share your struggle with them. They confirm that they knew it would be hard. You feel even more discouraged. The cycle continues, and you both stay stuck. Understanding these dynamics helps you see why being selective about who you share with is not optional. It is essential. Some of the loneliest moments in my life have been surrounded by people. I was in rooms full of individuals who knew me but didn't know me, who were there physically but not emotionally, who asked about my life but didn't really care about the answer. I thought something was wrong with me because I felt so isolated, despite being so connected. But what I eventually realized was that I was sharing my real self with people who only wanted my representative self. I was trying to be vulnerable with people who only wanted surface-level interaction. I was seeking depth from people who only had capacity for shallow. Once I understood this, I stopped feeling lonely in crowds. I started being more selective. I started sharing less with more people and more with fewer people. And the quality of my relationships improved dramatically. I had fewer connections, but deeper ones. Less quantity, but more quality. And that shift made all the difference. True supporters don't need you to be perfect. They accept you as you are while encouraging you to become more. They see your flaws and love you anyway. They know your weaknesses and don't use them against you. They understand your struggles and don't judge you for them. This acceptance creates safety, and safety creates the space for you to be honest about where you are and where you are trying to go. You can admit when you are scared. You can acknowledge when you are confused. You can ask for help without feeling weak. This is what real support provides. Not false positivity, not blind encouragement, but honest, grounded, consistent presence that says, I am here regardless of whether you succeed or fail. I am here because I value you as a person, not because I value what you might accomplish. If you don't have people like this in your life right now, that is information. It means you need to be even more protective of your story. It means you need to be even more selective about what you share and with whom. It means you might need to work in almost complete silence until you produce results that attract the right kind of people into your orbit. And that is okay. That is actually better than sharing with the wrong people and letting them poison your process. Better to build alone than to build surrounded by people who are secretly hoping you fail. Better to succeed in silence than to struggle in public with people who claim to care but really don't. Use this time of limited support to develop self-reliance, to trust your own judgment, to validate your own efforts. to believe in your own vision without needing external confirmation. These are skills that will serve you for life. Number 8, talking drains energy needed to achieve your goals. Energy is finite. You only have so much of it in any given day. And one of the biggest mistakes you can make is spending that limited energy talking about what you are going to do instead of actually doing it. Every conversation where you explain your plans is energy leaving your body. Every time you defend your decisions to someone who questions them, you are using mental and emotional resources that could be going toward execution. Every moment you spend updating people on your progress is time and attention that could be invested in making more progress. This isn't theoretical. This is measurable. Pay attention to how you feel after a long conversation about your goals. You feel tired. You feel like you've already done something, even though you haven't actually moved forward. That exhaustion is real. That depletion is significant. And if you are not careful, you'll talk yourself into a state of constant fatigue where you never have enough energy left to do the actual work. There's a psychological phenomenon that researchers have studied extensively. When you talk about your goals, your brain releases dopamine. It gives you a sense of reward and accomplishment just for articulating what you plan to do. This feels good in the moment. It feels like progress, but it is actually undermining your ability to achieve the goal because you are getting the emotional payoff without doing the work. Your brain has already received some satisfaction, which reduces your motivation to go through the difficult process of turning the talk into reality. This is why people who constantly post about their fitness goals often make less progress than people who just quietly go to the gym. This is why entrepreneurs who spend all their time at networking events talking about their business idea rarely build successful companies. They're burning their fuel in conversation instead of in creation. They're getting their dopamine hit from talking instead of from achieving. Think about the most productive periods of your life. The times when you accomplished the most. The times when you made the biggest leaps forward. How much were you talking during those periods? Probably not much. You were too busy working, too focused on execution, too absorbed in the process to spend time explaining it to others. Now think about the periods when you made the least progress. When you spun your wheels without moving forward. How much were you talking during those times? Probably a lot. You were discussing your plans, seeking feedback, getting opinions, updating people, defending your approach. And all of that talking created the illusion of productivity, while actually preventing real productivity. The correlation is clear. More talking equals less doing. Less talking equals more doing. It is not absolute, but it is a pattern that plays out consistently across different domains and different people. I learned this lesson when I was working on a major project that required months of intense focus. At first, I made the mistake of telling everyone what I was working on. Friends would ask how it was going, and I'd give them detailed updates. Family members would check in, and I'd explain all the challenges I was facing. Colleagues would inquire, and I'd walk them through my entire process. After each of these conversations, I noticed something. I felt drained. I felt less motivated to continue working. The project started to feel heavy instead of exciting. And I couldn't figure out why until I realized that I was giving away my energy in conversation. I was processing my thoughts out loud with people who couldn't help me solve the problems. I was explaining obstacles to people who had no context for understanding them. I was basically bleeding energy into interactions that provided no real value. Once I stopped doing this, everything changed. I had more energy for the work, more clarity about the next steps, more momentum in my progress. The project that felt impossible when I was talking about it became manageable when I shut up and focused. Talking also fragments your thinking. When you are constantly explaining your work to different people, you are constantly switching contexts. You are pulling yourself out of deep work to translate what you are doing into language that makes sense to someone who isn't in your head. This context switching has a cognitive cost. It takes time for your brain to refocus after each interruption. It takes energy to rebuild the mental models you had before the conversation. And if you are doing this multiple times a day, You never get into a state of deep flow where your best work happens. You are always operating at a surface level because you are always being pulled out of depth to explain yourself. The people who produce exceptional work are almost always the ones who protect their attention fiercely, who say no to unnecessary conversations, who limit their availability, who create boundaries around their time and their mental space. They understand that every conversation is a withdrawal from their energy account, and they're extremely selective about what they allow to be withdrawn. Let me give you a practical example of how this plays out. Imagine you have 4 hours of quality thinking time available today. You can use those 4 hours to make significant progress on your most important project. Or you can use 1 hour to have a coffee meeting where you explain what you are working on. 1 hour to respond to messages from people asking about your progress. 1 hour to post on social media about your journey. And 1 hour to actually work. In both scenarios, you spent 4 hours. But in the first scenario, you moved your project forward substantially. In the second scenario, you barely made a dent. The difference is where you allocated your energy. One approach concentrates it. The other disperses it. One builds momentum. The other kills it. And this choice plays out every single day. You are either protecting your energy for production, or you are spending it on communication. You are either investing in results, or you are investing in updates. You are either building something real, or you are building an image of building something. Energy management is the difference between dreamers and achievers. Dreamers spend their energy imagining and discussing. Achievers spend their energy planning and executing. Dreamers get excited about possibilities and want to share that excitement with everyone. Achievers get excited about possibilities and channel that excitement into action. Dreamers feel productive after talking about their goals. Achievers feel productive after making measurable progress toward their goals. The dreamers aren't bad people. They're not lazy. They're just confused about where to direct their energy.